Imagine for a moment you're standing in front of two doors. The first gives immediate satisfaction, a quick, fleeting pleasure, but the second, long-term success. The catch? The second door takes patience, effort, and discipline to walk through. Now ask yourself, which door would you choose? And more importantly, which door do you think most people choose in real life? Every single day, we're faced with choices like this. Moments where we either push through and exercise self-control or give in to temptation. Whether you're a child learning to wait his turn or an adult learning to make the right decision under pressure, self-control is the key that unlocks all success. But what exactly is self-control? And why is it so hard to hold on to, even when we know it is the right thing to do? This reminds me of an experience that changed the way I thought. It was a cool morning, windy and overcast, with the occasional light rain. I had just received my role as health prefect, and I was buzzing with excitement. It felt like a new chapter had begun. I woke up earlier than usual, eager to start my duties. And I got dressed way before anyone else. The highlight of my morning? Well, it was pinning that shiny silver badge onto my uniform. Health prefect, the badge read. I admired how it caught the light, reflecting a sense of responsibility and honor. Deep down, I told myself, Daniel, this was more than just a badge. But back then, I didn't fully understand what that meant. So, the day unfolded smoothly, and I felt a sense of pride anytime someone referred to me as prefect. I imagined all the privileges and respect that came with that title. It was all getting into my head. By the time siesta time rolled by, I was ready for a break. And then it occurred to me that siesta time also meant that sports time was coming up next. And as a basketball player, I couldn't wait to hit the court. So just as I set my eyes closed to get just a moment's rest, I heard someone's voice calling me, Daniel. It was faint, almost like a whisper. I decided to ignore it. But the voice called out again, Daniel, this time more insistent and closer. Annoyed, I tried to block it out. But it kept calling and calling, and a wave of frustration surged over me. And I lashed out, yes! Who is it? That's when I saw him standing over me. My housemaster, Mr. Joseph. His expression was stern. Not the kind of face you want to see first thing after waking up. Daniel, he said, his voice commanding authority. Are you aware of the responsibilities that come with your new post? I nodded in response, though I didn't fully grasp what those responsibilities were. Up to that moment, I'd been fully caught up in the privileges and respect that came with the title that I hadn't sat down to understand what being health prefect really meant. As my mind scrambled for an answer, my eyes wandered towards the window, and that's when I noticed the grounds outside. It was a mess. Wind had thrown garbage everywhere. Trash bins were toppled over. The sidewalks and walkways were covered with leaves and plastic wrappers. And the rain had turned all the dirt patches into muddy pools. The scene looked chaotic. And that's when I realized that my responsibility, my duty, the cleanliness of the school was in shambles. A wave of dread washed over me and my heart sank. I realized that it wasn't just some minor oversight. It was my job to keep the school clean no matter the weather or the circumstance. There was no excuse for the school being dirty and I had to do my job. But my heart sank even further when I realized that cleaning all this up would eat into my sports time. I was really looking forward to playing basketball that day, and now I had to give it up to do my job. For a moment, I considered pushing the blame or finding an excuse. After all, it wasn't my fault. I don't control the weather, but deep down, I knew that that wasn't the attitude of a prefect. Prefectship, as I had taught earlier, was more than about just wearing a badge. It was about the decisions I took when it got tough. So I took a deep breath and I made my decision. I gathered a few of my fellow prefects and I explained the situation to them. Together we organized the cleanup and we moved quickly to get the school grounds back in order. It was hard and the wind didn't make it any easier. But with every piece of litter I picked up, I felt a growing sense of responsibility. I looked up at the dorm windows and I saw my classmates looking down on me, and it occurred to me that they looked towards me for leadership. We finished just in time for sports and the school looked much better. I was exhausted but proud. Yes, I had given up some of my free time, but I had gained something far more valuable: respect for the role that I had been given. This story might not seem like much, but it taught me a crucial lesson. Self-control isn't always about resisting temptations, isn't always about unhealthy food and technology and whatnot. No, sometimes it's about the harder decisions. It's about taking responsibility even when no one cares or when no one is watching. About sacrificing what you want for the greater good. This story highlights the daily struggles of every human being. Yes, there's no one on this planet that doesn't want to succeed. But how many people are really ready to do the dirty work? How many people are willing to do what it takes? I could have chosen to play basketball that day. Who knows what could have happened? I mean, it would have felt great in the moment, but I would still have to clean it up later. But not until after a serious reprimanding by my teachers. What would I have gained? You see, self-control, my definition of self-control is the ability to do the right thing even when no one cares or when no one is watching. Self-control isn't built when you are zealous or determined. No. Self-control is built when even on the days that you don't feel like it, you still do it. Self-control is built on your off days, the days where you have zero motivation, but you still come around and always do the right thing. That is self-control. Self-control is like a muscle and it can be built. Self-control isn't something that you are born with or born without. It is a skill, one that can be honed, developed, and refined for the greater good. But how can we build self-control? Here are a few strategies I'd like to share that helped me on my journey. Number one, create accountability. Whether it's a friend or a mentor or even a public commitment, when you are held accountable, it becomes nearly impossible to forget your goals because the people around you, they wouldn't let you forget. Accountability is one of the factors that is most neglected, but it's also one of the most powerful. Number two, visualize success. Studies show that people who look at the long-term benefits of their choices find it easier to stick to their goals. When you see what you are doing, when you know why you are resisting temptation, when you see the future and how great it could be, you wouldn't be persuaded by all the short-term benefits that delayed all that cost. You see, when you see the future, it becomes easier to stay in the present. Number three, clear, meaningful goals. When you set clear, meaningful goals, you create a structure, one that you follow. You see, success is a process. It takes time. Rome wasn't built in one day. And lastly, the most important, your mentality. Self-control isn't about deprivation. No, it's about liberation. It's about setting yourself free from the flaying short-term benefits that crowd our mind. Self-control isn't about restriction. It's about setting yourself free. Now, anytime you are faced with a life-changing decision, just remember that self-control is not about what we avoid. It's about what we choose to take on. Thank you.
Exposing the secret in great speaking starts now. Great speakers are made, not born. Embrace the journey, hone your craft, and let your voice inspire. This is Speak to Inspire, where your transformation begins.